They said they loved me like their own. But when I needed blood, they gave me silence. My name's Mercury. Yeah, like the planet. People always ask, is it a nickname? Was your mom an astrologer? A mythology fan? Nope. It's just me. And maybe that's always been the problem. See, I grew up in a house that looked normal from the outside. White fence. 2-story. Dad mowed the lawn every Sunday. Mom folded laundry while some cheesy sitcom played in the background. People used to say, "You've got the perfect family." They didn't live in it. I had a sister, Luna, 2 years younger, blonde, dimples. Teachers loved her. Neighbors brought her candy. She could break something and get a hug. I could breathe wrong and get grounded. She got princess. I got problem. Still, I tried. God, I tried so hard. I brought home straight A's. Fixed stuff without being asked. Laughed at their jokes. Asked for nothing. Not even on birthdays. I just wanted to be seen. Not even loved, just noticed. Then came the crash. I don't remember it happening. Just the before. Music on the radio, late night drive home. And then flashes. A horn. Glass. Darkness. Woke up in the hospital, strapped to machines. Everything ached. My vision swam. A nurse hovered near the bed and said gently, "We had some trouble finding a match, but we got the blood in time. You're going to be okay now." Trouble finding a match? At first, it didn't register. I was barely conscious. Morphine makes your brain move like syrup. But later, in the quiet moments, when the beeping machines were my only company and visiting hours had passed, I kept thinking about what she said. My parents were alive, healthy, present. So why did they need to search for blood? I asked Mom when she visited, half joking, like it didn't matter. "Hey, you guys are the same blood type as me, right?" She blinked, smiled. "Of course, sweetheart. What kind of question is that?" Then she adjusted my blanket and changed the subject. Told me Luna had aced her math test. Dad never answered, just grunted. Mumbled something about hospital coffee tasting like dishwater. It was nothing. They said it was nothing. But the way they said it, that tone, that don't go digging kind of tone, that stayed with me. I wanted to believe them. I really did. Because if I didn't, if I started to question that, if I pulled that thread, then the whole sweater might unravel. But something had already shifted. And once that doubt slips in, it doesn't leave. It lives in the quiet spaces. In the way Mom's hand hesitated before brushing my hair. In the way Dad never made eye contact for more than 2 seconds. In the way Luna said, "Why do you always have to be so dramatic?" When I asked why no one donated their blood. I was raised to believe I was loved, just in their own way. But now I wasn't so sure whose way I was even part of. And I didn't know it yet. But that single bag of blood was about to tear my whole life apart. That morning started like any other. I was late for the enrollment deadline at a course I'd been wanting to join. A chance to finally focus on myself. Something to pull me out of the endless loop of questions and silence at home. I reached into my pocket for my wallet, but when I pulled it out, it wasn't mine. It was my dad's. At first, I didn't think much of it. I was distracted, half dreading the day ahead. But on a whim, I flipped open the leather wallet, and my eyes landed on his ID card. I almost didn't recognize the detail that caught me. Blood type. It was printed clearly, right there on the card. And it was different from mine. I stared at it, feeling like the air had been sucked out of the room. My heart beat faster. I blinked twice, thinking maybe I was seeing things wrong. But no, the blood group on that card wasn't the same as the one I'd seen on my own medical report after the accident. The tiny knot of doubt that had been nagging at me since the hospital suddenly turned into a raging storm. What did this mean? Did my dad's blood really not match mine? What about my mom's? Or Luna's? The questions piled up. I shoved the wallet back in my pocket and tried to act normal. I told myself it was just a clerical error, maybe a mix-up at the DMV. But deep down, I knew that was wishful thinking. That night, lying in bed, the silence of the house felt heavier than ever. I ran through every conversation I'd had with my parents about family, about love, about who I was. Every "it's nothing," and "don't worry about it," echoed in my head. How many times had I looked at my family and felt like an outsider? How many times had I questioned if they truly cared? The blood group wasn't just a number or a letter. It was proof. Proof that something was very wrong. If my own family's blood didn't match mine, then what else was a lie? Who was I really? I knew I had to dig deeper, no matter how painful the answers might be, because living in half-truths was suffocating, and I was ready to find the whole truth. even if it shattered everything I thought I knew. I wasn't ready to blow everything up yet. Not with a scream or a confrontation. So I waited, watched, looked for the right moment. That moment came one quiet evening when we all sat down for dinner. The kind of casual family meal that felt normal, but wasn't. Mom was busy stirring the stew, Luna scrolling through her phone, and Dad was distracted, half watching a game on TV. I decided to break the ice with something small. You ever notice how much info is on those ID cards? I asked, trying to sound casual. Like, I swear they put everything on there: height, eye color, blood type. Stuff people never really look at. Mom glanced over and smiled faintly. Yeah, I guess so, she said, wiping her hands on her apron. You're always looking for details, huh? Yeah, I said, details matter. Like when you think you know someone, but then you notice a little thing that doesn't add up. Luna rolled her eyes, but I could tell she was listening. So, why don't we all check our blood types just for fun? I said, trying to keep my voice light. Dad grunted, but pulled his wallet out. Mine's B positive. Mom handed me hers, and my eyes caught it before I even registered what I was seeing. A different blood type. I swallowed hard. Luna hesitated, then pulled out her ID. Also different. My voice cracked when I asked, "Wait, how is that possible?" Mom looked down, fiddling with her spoon. Dad shifted uncomfortably. "It's complicated, Merca," Mom finally said softly. "Complicated?" I repeated, heart pounding. "You never told me any of this. Why keep it a secret? Am I not really your son?" There was silence. Then Luna whispered, "We thought it was better this way." Better for whom? I wanted to scream. "You treated me like I didn't belong," I said, my voice shaking. "Why lie about something this big?" Dad finally spoke, voice low and tired. "We did what we thought was right. We loved you in our way." "Loved me?" I shot back. "You never acted like it. If you loved me, you wouldn't have hidden this. You wouldn't have kept me in the dark all these years." Tears welled up in my eyes, but I forced myself to stay calm. I realized then that love without truth was just another kind of betrayal. And I was done pretending. I needed answers. Real ones. The ones only my grandmother could give. The morning I left, the sun barely peeked over the horizon. My suitcase felt heavy, not just with clothes, but with the weight of the questions I'd been carrying for years. 4 hours away, in a small town I barely remembered, lived my grandmother Laura, the one person who might finally have the answers I'd been chasing. The road stretched endlessly before me, each mile pushing me away from the life I thought I knew and closer to a truth I wasn't sure I wanted. My mind was a whirlwind of doubt and hope, tangled with memories that suddenly seemed so fragile. When I reached her house, the air smelled of earth and blooming jasmine, a quiet contrast to the storm inside me. The house itself looked old, but well cared for, with windows that reflected the late morning light softly. Before I could even knock, the door opened. Laura stood there, her eyes sharp and warm at the same time, studying me with a look I couldn't quite read. "Merca," she said quietly, a mixture of surprise and something like relief in her voice. "You came." We stepped inside, into a room filled with faded photographs and relics of a past that felt both distant and deeply connected to me. The weight of silence settled between us as we sat down. Finally, Laura spoke, her voice steady but gentle. "You want to know the truth," she said. "I've waited a long time for you to come." My throat tightened. "I need to know. I can't keep living in this fog of lies," I whispered. She nodded and began to unfold a story I had only guessed at, but never fully understood. "You are not the son of the people who raised you," she said carefully. "After the earthquake in Antakya, 15 years ago, many children were lost. You were one of them." Her eyes glistened with tears, memories flooding back. "We found you under the rubble, weak but alive. I took you in because no one else could." The room felt smaller, the air heavier. My world shifted on its axis. "Why did they lie?" I asked, voice trembling. "Why keep me in the dark all these years?" "Because they loved you in their way," Laura answered. "But fear and shame can make people do strange things. They were afraid of the truth, afraid of losing you, and afraid of what others might say." I looked down at my hands, feeling both betrayal and a strange comfort. I wasn't alone in this anymore. Laura reached out, placing her hand over mine. "You have a chance now," she said softly. "A chance to find your real family, to find your roots." Tears I hadn't realized I was holding back spilled down my cheeks. For the first time, hope stirred inside me, a fragile but powerful spark. This was just the beginning. A new chapter was about to start. One where I would seek out the people I was born from, and finally find where I truly belonged. I walked into the house that I had always called home, but something was different. The familiar creak of the floorboards, the faded wallpaper, even the smell of my mom's cooking. It all felt like a mask covering a deeper truth I hadn't been ready to face. The weight of everything I'd just learned pressed down on me, heavy and cold. I sat down at the kitchen table with my parents, heart pounding so loud I thought they might hear it. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then I finally blurted out the question that had been burning in my chest for months. Why didn't you give me your blood when I needed it? Why did you lie to me all these years? My mom's hands trembled as she reached for a dish towel, twisting it between her fingers like it was the only thing holding her together. My dad looked away, his jaw tight. After what felt like an eternity, my dad spoke, voice rough with regret. Mercury, we thought we were protecting you. We didn't want you to get hurt by the truth. We thought if you never knew, you'd be safe. But you hurt me worse than any truth ever could, I said, trying to keep my voice steady but failing. You let me believe something that wasn't real. You made me feel like I didn't belong. My mom's eyes filled with tears. We're sorry. We're so sorry. You have always been our son, even if not by blood. We loved you, but we messed up. We were scared. It felt like the ground shifted beneath me. All those years of cold shoulders, harsh words, and silent dinners. Maybe it wasn't just me being too sensitive. Maybe it was because I wasn't really theirs. I swallowed hard and asked the question I'd been afraid to say out loud. Where are my real parents? Are they alive? Have they been looking for me all this time? They exchanged a worried glance. My mom's voice was barely a whisper. We don't know if they're alive, Mercury, but we believe they are. And if they are, maybe they're searching for you too. For the first time in years, a tiny spark of hope lit inside me. Maybe my story wasn't finished yet. Maybe I wasn't just a forgotten secret. I looked at the people who raised me, the ones who had lied and loved me at the same time, and I felt a strange mix of anger and forgiveness. Maybe forgiveness for them, but also for myself, for holding on to something broken for so long. That night, lying awake in my old room, I stared at the ceiling and thought about what was next. The lies, the pain, the truth, and the hope. I knew one thing for sure. This was the end of one chapter in my life, but the beginning of another. The search for my real family was about to start, because sometimes the hardest truths lead to the greatest freedom. If you liked part 1 and want to follow Mercury's journey, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you won't miss what happens next.